In September 2024, I was joined by 4 friends on a journey of a lifetime. We did a self-supported 350-mile ride from DC to Pittsburgh along the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Towpath and the Great Allegheny Passage. On day 6, we rode almost 43 miles from Evetts Creek Hiker-Biker Campsite in Cumberland, Maryland, to the Dunkus Drive-In in Meyersdale, PA. Highlights included Evetts Creek Aqueduct, reaching Cumberland and completing the C&O Canal Towpath, Brush Tunnel, the Western Maryland Scenic Train, Frotsburg, Borden Tunnel, the Mason-Dixon Line, Big Savage Tunnel, the Eastern Continental Divide, and the Keystone Viaduct. We are up early today as breakfast was in Cumberland, and that meant packing up and pedaling 5 miles before we ate. As I mentioned in the last video, this CSX freight yard is operated 24 hours a day, so I recommend earplugs if you are planning to camp here. The boys are almost packed up, so we'll be heading out soon. Today we're going from milepost 180, as you can see, and we're working our way all the way to Meyersdale on the Great Allegheny Passage. If you have questions about the gear I used or how we planned this trip or anything else, please leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer your questions, and if there is enough interest, I will do a Q&A video at the end of the series. We're rolling our last few miles, 5 to be exact, of the C&O Canal. Soon we'll be in downtown Cumberland. Check out the visitor center, then we're gonna look for some brunch. Evetts Creek Aqueduct is the last of 11 on the C&O Canal. It's made of fossil ferrous Tonalaway limestone, which was quarried upstream. It was largely complete by 1841, but due to financial difficulties, it was not opened until 1850. The Carpendale Rail Trail is on the left, just past this bridge. It's easy to miss, and we did. Although less than a mile long, the trail features a wooden bridge spanning 386 feet across the north branch of the Potomac River and a 1,500-foot long tunnel through Novelty Mountain. As we approach the end of the C&O Canal, we pass the Cumberland, a 93-foot-long, 14.5-foot wide canal boat replica. It was constructed in 1976, and when open, visitors can tour it. After a brief celebration for completing the C&O Canal Towpath, the team headed directly to Cafe Mark for a proper breakfast. We would return to Canal Place to check things out later. Located behind the fountain in its centerpiece statue of a mule and a driver is the former Western Maryland Railroad Station, which now serves as a canal visitor center. Unfortunately, the visitor center is closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. The C&O Canal ends and the gap begins here at Canal Place. We decided to check out the Wheels Up bike shop. I was happy to see that they had some freeze-dried meals for sale, so I stocked up here for the remainder of the trip. Before riding off on the gap, I went trackside to photograph the Western Maryland Scenic Train, which was preparing to board passengers for Frotsburg. The first 2 miles of the gap is paved, however the surface changes to crushed stone after the Western Maryland Railway double bridge. I know, you just wanted us to catch up, so you took the longer way with more hills. So we pulled out of Cumberland and we're heading on the Great Allegheny Passage, which is on the old Western Maryland, and behind us the tracks are Western Maryland Scenic Railway. we approach milepost 4 on our left is the once fossil-rich Cumberland Bone Cave. Workers laying track for the Western Maryland Railway in 1912 unearthed bones while excavating the side of Wills Mountain. Skeletons of an extinct cave bear and a saber-toothed cat from here are on exhibit at the National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. At mile 5.3, we pass through Helmstetter's Curve. This sweeping horseshoe curve was built by the Western Maryland Railway in 1912 to ease trains up the grade from Cumberland. The curve splits farmland owned by the Helmstetter family for over 100 years. As a longtime railroad enthusiast, I was excited to hear the train coming and passing us here. Rush Tunnel at mile 6.5 is 911 feet long and constructed of reinforced concrete. The tunnel once had 2 tracks. Today a fence separates the gap from the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. A company called Tracks and Yaks offers rail bike tours on the Western Maryland Scenic. One can ride down from Frotsburg and take the train back up. They also offer bike shuttles from Cumberland where you can ride 25 miles all downhill from the Continental Divide.
You guys ride the train? Hi.
Welcome.
Not sure why, but everyone wanted a shot of me riding my bike. Since they have been good sports in letting me record them, I really couldn't protest.
Director, hard at work, never takes a break.
Nice view.
We arrived at the Frotsburg trailhead. From here, a bicycle-themed sculpture garden invites us to traverse a series of 6 switchbacks to reach the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad's Frotsburg Station. While this may seem daunting, it beats the steep but more direct New Hope Road. That is, unless your Mike can fall over while riding up it.
Did you catch that, John?
Fortunately, Mike was not hurt and did not break his bike while falling over. Feel free to leave a comment and rib him a little. The train that passed us at Helmstetter's Curve has discharged its passengers. The locomotive has been turned and placed on the opposite end of the train for a return to Cumberland. The depot was built in 1891 by the Cumberland and Pennsylvania Railroad. It's interesting to note that just beyond the end of the track and the turntable is an abandoned railroad tunnel. Frotsburg is quite literally a city on a hill. It has an average elevation of 2,000 feet. Riding up from the depot with all our gear required a great deal of effort. We had lunch at El Canalo, a Mexican restaurant.
As you can see by our attire, it's been a little drizzly out here, so we're gonna have beautiful days every single day out here. So far, can't complain too much. It's just a light drizzle.
Borden Tunnel is 957 feet long. It was built in 1911 by the Western Maryland Railway. The tunnel was abandoned by the railroad in the 1970s. Surveyed between 1763 and 1767 by Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon, the Mason-Dixon line resolved a long-standing dispute among the two British colonies of Pennsylvania and Maryland. Despite its colonial origins, it is more commonly known as the cultural dividing line between the North and South during the Civil War. We just crossed the Mason-Dixon line, and there's a bathroom and a couple picnic tables. Kind of nice. Supposedly, if it wasn't foggy, you could see the wind turbines over the hill, but it's a little foggy. It's been drizzly all day, off and on, but really can't complain. We're still going up, and I think Mike just said we're about 3 miles from the Big Savage Tunnel and maybe the Eastern Continental Divide, so definitely looking forward to the downhill. We've earned it. The 3,291-foot Big Savage Tunnel was completed in 1912, the same year that the Connellsville extension opened. While building the tunnel, the railroad encountered soft mud and sand, making the work difficult. They even brought in airlocks used to build subway tunnels in New York City to help. Maintaining the tunnel was a constant challenge, and conditions worsened when the railroad line was abandoned in 1975. In the late 1990s, the Great Allegheny Passage Conservancy gained support for its restoration. Repairs were made with a new liner installed along with a drainage system. Doors have been added to both portals, and the tunnel is closed from the beginning of November to the end of March to prevent the freeze-thaw conditions that damaged the tunnel in the past. Big Savage Tunnel is named for surveyor and inventor Thomas Savage, who along with the rest of his party was stranded on his namesake mountain in the winter of 1736. The Eastern Continental Divide is the highest point along the Cap and our entire journey from DC to Pittsburgh. We are at 2,392 feet above sea level. Water on the DC side runs to the Chesapeake Bay, and water on the Pittsburgh side runs to the Gulf of Mexico via the Mississippi River.
Well, that was it, the Eastern Continental Divide. It's 0.75% grade, downhill on average, all the way to Pittsburgh.
Mike and Ian were so excited about riding downhill they rode past this Amish farm stand. Fortunately, there was cell service in this area and we were able to call them back. We all bought something to snack on and save some for later. We'll follow the Florida Creek from the Continental Divide to Meyersdale. This curved trestle rises nearly 100 feet above the Florida Creek and the CSX railroad tracks. While not the longest on the gap, the Keystone Viaduct at 910 feet is quite impressive. We didn't know it at the time, but a short scramble up the rocks on the west end provides a great view of the viaduct. This slight bump was introduced by CSX, who raised the bridge to accommodate double-stacked container cars on their tracks below. The This 81-foot cast and wrought iron truss bridge is one of the few remaining bridges built by the pioneer and builder Wendell Bollman. These iron bridges were easy to erect by unskilled laborers since each part had numbers cast into it for easy identification, and everything was held together with bolts and pins. The bridge originally carried the B&O Railroad over Wills Creek east of Meyersdale. It was moved in 1910 and relegated to a farm road over the B&O. Slated for demolition in 2006, it was moved a third time to serve the gap. We have reached the Meyersdale trailhead. It's late and the station is closed. Not to worry, it will be open the next morning and we'll see more of it in the next video. On our way to the motel, we were stopped by this freight train. This drive-in and motel has been a family-owned business for 50 years and is owned and operated by a third-generation family member. We not only stayed in the motel, but had dinner this night and breakfast the next morning. Owner Melissa Friend, her staff, and the locals were all outgoing and made us feel welcome. Join us for more adventure on day 7 as we travel 51 miles from Meyersdale to the Ohiopyle State Park. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.